The alarms of the space station echoed in the long metal corridors. Red lights flashed on the walls. Traders, soldiers, and travelers rushed past each other, each too busy with their own lives. But in the dark corner of a hallway, someone small and quiet tried to make herself invisible. She was not human. Her skin was a soft shade of silver blue, her eyes large but always looking down at the floor. She was thin, almost fragile, as if the weight of the galaxy pressed on her shoulders. Her name was whispered sometimes but never spoken with kindness. To most, she was simply the orphaned girl. She stayed away from crowds. If footsteps came near, she would press her back to the wall and hold her breath. When strangers looked her way, she turned her head, hiding her face behind her long, dark hair. She did not speak. She had not spoken for years. On this station, people came from many planets. They bought, they sold, they argued, they laughed. But no one laughed with her. No one argued with her. They acted as if she was a ghost, someone not really alive, someone best ignored. And maybe that was what she wanted. She feared voices. She feared eyes. Every time she tried to step into a room full of people, her chest grew tight, her breath short, her hands shaking until she ran away. Inside her heart was a secret wound. Long ago, before she came to this station, something terrible had happened. Something that left her with no family, no friends, and no home. The memory lived in her, burning quietly like a hidden fire. But she never let it out. She chose silence. She chose shadows. That was how the girl lived, day after day hiding from the stars. One cycle, when the docking gates opened, a new group of visitors entered the station. They were humans. Strong, loud, warm-blooded humans. Their boots hit the metal floors with confidence. Their voices carried like music, full of energy. The girl saw them from her corner. Her body froze. She hated new arrivals, new eyes, new danger. She tried to shrink smaller, pressing her knees to her chest, but one of the humans noticed her. He was tall, with calm brown eyes that seemed softer than the others. His hair was messy, his uniform worn, but there was something gentle about the way he moved. While the other humans laughed and shouted, he stopped walking. His gaze turned toward the girl. She panicked. Her heart raced. She wanted to run, but her legs would not move. He bent slightly, as if trying to see her better. The crowd continued to rush behind him, but he stayed still, his head tilted with curiosity, not judgment. His eyes were not cold. They were searching, patient. No one had looked at her that way in a very long time. The girl pulled her hair across her face, hiding. She hoped he would leave. Everyone left. That was the rule of her life. But he did not leave. He stepped closer. 3. Girl's breathing grew sharp. She hugged herself tightly, eyes shut, waiting for the sound of mocking words or worse, the hand that might pull her up, drag her away. Instead, a quiet voice reached her. "Hey," he said softly, just one word. Her eyes opened, surprised by the tone. It was not hard. It was not cruel. It was gentle. Still, she said nothing. She couldn't. Her lips stayed pressed together. The human crouched down so his face was lower, closer to her level. For a moment he just watched her, as if he was trying to understand without speaking. Then he smiled. Not wide, not fake, just a small smile that held no danger. "You look tired," he whispered, as if speaking only to her. "I won't bother you." He reached into his bag. The girl's body stiffened, ready to flee. But what he pulled out was not a weapon. It was a small box, wrapped in simple cloth. He set it gently on the floor in front of her. Then, without another word, he stood, turned, and walked away with the rest of his group. The girl stared at the box. Her hands trembled, unsure. She had never been given anything before, not without a cost. Gifts did not exist in her world. The box moved. Her eyes widened. A sound came from inside, soft, alive. Whimper, scratch, bark. Her breath caught. Slowly, carefully she reached forward. Fingers trembling, she pulled back the cloth. The box opened. 2 bright eyes looked up at her. It was small, fluffy, with ears too big for its head. A tiny creature wagged its tail and let out a joyful bark. A puppy. The girl gasped. Her lips curved into something unfamiliar, something she had almost forgotten, something like a smile. Then she quickly covered her mouth, hiding even from herself. But the puppy didn't care. It tried to climb out of the box, falling onto her, lap licking her hands, yipping happily as if it had known her forever. For the first time in years, the girl let out a sound. Not words, not laughter, but a soft, breathless giggle. No one else saw. No one else heard. But in that moment, something inside her cracked open. Something was changing. And far away, beyond the walls of the station, the stars burned brighter, as if they knew her silence would not last forever. The girl sat in her corner, clutching the small puppy against her chest. Its soft fur tickled her chin. She still could not understand what had happened. Why would a human, of all people, leave such a gift for her? Nobody ever gave her anything. Nobody ever looked twice. And yet, he had. The next cycle, she returned to the same hallway, afraid but curious. She hid behind a pipe, watching. The humans had returned. They walked in a group, loud and cheerful. Their laughter filled the corridor like rolling thunder. She hated loud sounds. They made her shrink smaller, but she could not look away. There, he was again, the one with the soft eyes. He carried a bag slung over his shoulder. His pace was calm, not rushed like the others. He laughed too, but not as loud. His laughter seemed warmer, as if it carried no sharp edges. For a moment, his gaze flicked toward the shadows. She froze. Did he see her? She pressed herself back, puppy trembling in her arms. But he only smiled, almost like he knew she was hiding. Then he kept walking. Something inside her chest beat strangely. Later, when the crowds thinned, she crept out again. She did not want to admit it, but she had been waiting. The puppy yipped happily, sniffing everything, pulling her along with its little paws. Then she heard boots behind her. Her body tensed. She spun quickly, holding the puppy tighter, heart racing. It was him. The human stood just a few steps away, not too close, not too far. He lifted his hands slowly, showing he carried no weapon. His face held the same small smile. Calm, patient. You kept it, he said softly. His voice was low, careful, like one might use with a bird ready to fly away. The girl swallowed hard, her lips pressed shut. She wanted to run, but her feet did not move. The puppy barked, tail wagging at the man. It pulled against her arms, wanting to go to him. The human chuckled quietly. Seems like it likes you already. Her eyes flicked to him, then down again. She could not speak. The words were trapped deep inside, locked away for years. That's good, he went on, kneeling slightly. I thought maybe you'd push it away. Most people push things away when they're afraid. She stiffened at that word. Afraid. Did he know? Could he see right through her silence? His gaze softened. I'm not here to scare you. He paused, searching for the right words. I saw you. Everyone else kept walking, but I saw you. The girl's breath caught. She dared a glance at him. Just a small glance, and he was looking directly at her, not past her, not through her. At her. Her chest tightened, a strange ache rising inside. She looked down again, hiding, behind her hair. Others passed by the corridor, muttering. 2 merchants whispered loudly enough for her to hear. Why is he wasting time with that ghost girl? She never speaks. Broken thing she is. Their voices stabbed at her, familiar knives she had felt many times. She braced herself for the human to walk away like all the rest. But instead he turned his head sharply toward them. His eyes hardened. She's not broken, he said firmly. His tone carried steel. The merchants blinked, surprised, then hurried off, muttering. The girl's eyes widened. No one had ever defended her. Not once. The human exhaled slowly, turning back to her with that same gentle smile. People talk too much, he whispered. They don't know what they're saying. The girl hugged the puppy close, her throat burning. Something heavy pressed behind her ribs, something she hadn't felt in a long time. The human didn't push further. He didn't ask for her name, didn't demand a word. He only set down a small pouch of food at the edge of her corner. For the little one, he said, nodding at the puppy. Then slowly, he stood and stepped back. Take care of it, that's all. And he left. The girl stared at the pouch for a long time. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside was simple food, safe and fresh. The puppy barked, eager, so she shared. She fed it with shaking hands, eyes stinging with tears she didn't understand. Why was this human different? Why did he look twice when no one else ever did? That night, when the station grew quiet, she sat in the corner of her small sleeping space. The puppy curled against her side, warm and safe. She stroked its fur, her thoughts tangled. She remembered the human's eyes, the way he had spoken against the merchants, the way he had left food, not questions. She whispered something then, her voice hoarse and dry from years of silence. Why, just one word, almost broken, almost lost. The puppy stirred but did not answer. Only its steady breathing filled the room. But far away, in the human's quarters, he sat awake too, wondering about the silver-blue girl who hid from the stars, and tomorrow, he knew, he would look twice again. The station lights flickered as another long cycle began. Crowds flowed through the main halls like rivers of noise and color. Traders shouted, children laughed, soldiers marched with heavy boots. But in the middle of all that chaos, one small corner seemed brighter than usual. The orphan girl sat there, her arms wrapped protectively around the tiny puppy. Its tail wagged, its tongue licked her fingers, and its small body wiggled with endless energy. For years, she had lived in silence. But now, something alive demanded her attention. Something that refused to be ignored. The puppy barked. Loud, high-pitched, and joyful. She gasped, covering her mouth. The sound was so sudden, so full of life. Heads turned in her direction. Her body stiffened with panic. She almost bolted back into hiding, almost. But then the puppy barked again, and again. The sound was ridiculous, clumsy, pure. And to her surprise, some nearby children giggled. Look at that little thing, one child squealed. So tiny, another laughed. For once, no one was laughing at her. They were laughing at the puppy. Something warm flickered in her chest. Later, in the quieter halls, the girl tried to hush the creature. She crouched close, whispering even though her voice cracked. Shh. They will hear. The puppy tilted, its head tongue hanging out. Then it barked again, louder this time, as if mocking her. Her eyes widened. Her lips pressed together, but then, almost against her will, a sound escaped. A soft giggle. It startled her as much as the bark had. She hadn't heard her own laugh in years. She pressed her hand to her mouth, frightened someone might have noticed. But only the puppy stared at her, tail wagging as if proud. Something was happening. A wall inside her was crumbling piece by piece every time the puppy barked. That evening, she found herself walking carefully behind the human who had given her the gift. She didn't mean to follow him. She told herself she was only curious. But her feet moved on their own, keeping a quiet distance. The man stopped at a trading stall, speaking kindly to an older vendor. His voice was calm, steady. She couldn't hear all the words, but his tone was easy, warm, different from the sharp voices of others. The puppy wriggled in her arms, barking once, loudly. The man turned his head. His eyes found her immediately. She froze. Her breath caught, but instead of calling out, instead of stepping closer, he only smiled softly. A small nod, as if to say, I see you. It's all right. Then he turned back to the vendor, continuing his conversation. The girl's cheeks warmed. She didn't know why. The puppy grew restless in her arms, so she carried it outside to the small observation deck where few people went. Beyond the glass, the stars burned bright. Millions of them scattered across the black sea of space. She hated stars. They reminded her of what she had lost. Her home, her people, the endless emptiness that had swallowed everything she loved. But tonight, she wasn't alone. The puppy barked at the glass, pawing at it as if it wanted to chase the stars themselves. Her lips trembled. "Silly," she whispered. "You cannot reach them." It barked again anyway. Her voice cracked into a tiny laugh. For the first time, she realized she was speaking aloud. Not in her head. Not in memory. Out loud, the puppy yipped happily in reply. But the station was not safe that night. In the distance, deep sensors detected movement. An unknown ship drifted into range, its signals faint but growing stronger. Security officers muttered in concern. Raiders had been spotted in the sector before. The girl knew none of this yet. She only knew that the puppy was hungry again. She opened the small pouch of food the human had left and let the creature nibble happily. As it ate, she whispered words she hadn't spoken in years. "Little one," she said slowly. The words felt heavy, unused. I will keep you safe." Her throat burned with the sound. Her body shook, but she said it anyway. The puppy barked, wagging its tail as if it understood. And in that moment, the girl felt something impossible. She wasn't only protecting the puppy, it was protecting her. Across the station, the human stood near a console scanning the incoming signals. His eyes narrowed. He felt a chill run through him. Raiders meant danger. He thought of the silver-blue girl in the shadows, of the puppy that had already begun to break her silence. He tightened his jaw. She had no one else. If trouble came, he knew who would stand in front of her. That night, as the girl curled up with the puppy beside her, alarms hummed faintly through the walls. She didn't understand them yet. She only understood the soft weight of the tiny creature breathing against her arm. For the first time in years, her dreams were not filled with fire and loss. They were filled with the sound of barking, with warmth, with something new. Hope. Curium. Alarms of the station screamed without warning. Red lights pulsed across the metal walls. Doors slammed shut. Voices shouted in panic. The orphan girl froze in the corridor. The puppy clutched tightly against her chest. She had heard alarms before, but this time they were different. Louder, sharper, full of dread. "Raiders!" someone yelled. "They've breached the outer ring." Her blood ran cold. Raiders. She had heard the stories. Pirates who burned colonies, stole supplies, and left nothing behind. Sometimes they took prisoners. Sometimes worse. Her knees shook. The old terror returned, crawling up her spine like ice. She wanted to run, to hide in her dark corner, curl up small and invisible. That was how she had survived before. But the puppy barked. The sound snapped her out of her haze. Its tail wagged as if daring the danger to come closer. Her lips trembled. "Quiet. Please," she whispered, but her voice was weak. Another explosion rocked the walls. The lights flickered. Dust rained down from the ceiling. She had never been so afraid. Not far away, the human fought through the crowd. He wore no armor, only his old jacket, but his eyes burned with focus. People pushed and shoved, rushing toward escape pods. But he moved against the flow, toward the danger. He spotted her. She stood frozen at the junction, clutching the puppy, her body trembling like a leaf in a storm. "Hey," he called, his voice cutting through the chaos. Her head snapped up. For a heartbeat, their eyes met. His gaze was firm, unshaken. "Come with me," he shouted, motioning with his hand. Her legs would not move. Her mind screamed to run away, to vanish. But his voice anchored her. Another blast shook the corridor. Screams echoed. The puppy barked again, fierce this time, as if answering the call of battle. And somehow that silly bark gave her strength. Her feet stumbled forward. Step by step she moved toward him. They ducked into a side corridor as smoke filled the main hall. The human guided her quickly, checking corners, listening for danger. Stay close, he ordered gently. Don't let go of that pup. She nodded, too afraid to speak. The station trembled with more explosions. Distant shouts grew louder. The raiders were spreading through the levels. They'll be here soon, he muttered. We need to reach the lower decks. She hugged the puppy tighter, heart pounding. Her breaths came fast and shallow. Every sound made her flinch. Then, around the corner, shadows moved. The human raised his hand, signaling her to stop. His body tensed. He peeked quickly, then pulled back. Raiders. 3 of them, armored in black, weapons glowing with red light. The girl's chest locked, her vision blurred. She remembered fire screams the night her world ended. Her body refused to move. The puppy squirmed in her arms, barking wildly. One raider turned his head. The human cursed under his breath. He grabbed a loose pipe from the floor and glanced at her, his voice dropped to a whisper. When I move, run, do you hear me? Run! Her eyes widened. She wanted to shake her head to scream no, but no words came out. He didn't wait. With a roar, the human charged. The pipe swung, smashing into the nearest raider's helmet. Sparks flew. The corridor erupted with shouts and gunfire. The girl stumbled back, clutching the puppy. Her body screamed at her to flee. This was the moment. Run, hide, vanish. But she didn't move. Her eyes stayed locked on the human. He fought with raw fury, blocking one shot, ducking another, driving his pipe against steel armor. But he was outnumbered. He would fall. She felt it in her bones. Her heart hammered, her chest ached, fear crushed her, and then something broke. Her mouth opened. From deep inside, a sound tore free. A scream, high, sharp, filled with every terror she had buried. The sound echoed through the corridor like a blade of sound. The raiders flinched, startled. For a brief second they hesitated. The human struck again, knocking one raider down. The girl's chest burned. Her voice had betrayed her silence, but it had saved him. The puppy barked louder, matching her cry. Its small body wriggled from her arms, darting forward with impossible courage. It nipped at a raider's leg, distracting him long enough for the human to swing the pipe and send him sprawling. Now! The human shouted. Her legs finally moved. She rushed forward, scooping the puppy back into her arms as the human grabbed her hand. Together they sprinted down the corridor away from the fallen raiders. The alarms wailed, the lights flickered, but for the first time, she was not just hiding. Her screams still echoed in her ears. She had been heard. They reached a sealed hatch. The human slammed the control panel, forcing it open. Inside was a small maintenance bay, safer for the moment. He turned to her, breathing hard, sweat on his brow. But he was smiling. You did it, he said, almost in disbelief. You saved me. She shook her head quickly, clutching the puppy close. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Yes, he said firmly. That scream gave me the chance I needed. Her eyes burned with tears. She had never thought her voice could protect anyone. The puppy licked her chin, tail wagging. The human crouched down, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. Don't be afraid of your voice. It's stronger than you think. She stared at him, her throat aching. Outside, heavy boots thundered. Raiders were still hunting. The danger wasn't over, but something had changed inside her. For the first time, she wasn't only afraid. For the first time, she wanted to fight. The maintenance bay shook as another blast rocked the station. Pipes rattled, sparks hissed, and the air grew heavy with smoke. The girl pressed her back to the wall, clutching the puppy tight. Her body trembled, but her ears still rang with the sound of her own scream, the sound that had saved them. She had not meant to do it. The voice had ripped out of her like a storm, breaking years of silence. For so long she had hidden behind silence, afraid it made her weak. But tonight, her voice had been a weapon, and that thought terrified her even more. The human crouched beside the hatch, listening for footsteps outside. His jaw was tight, but his eyes burned with determination. They'll sweep this level soon, he said. We can't stay here. The girl hugged the puppy closer. She wanted to vanish into the shadows again, but something inside her stirred. A strange feeling, like a spark, kept pushing against the fear. She looked at the human. He was strong, but he wasn't invincible. He had fought for her, defended her. And when he had needed help most, it wasn't his strength that saved him. It was her voice. Her. The thought made her chest ache. Suddenly, the hatch hissed. The human spun, pipe raised. But instead of raiders, a group of station civilians stumbled. And merchants, workers, even a pair of frightened children. Their faces were pale, eyes wide with terror. One man gasped, "Please, help us! Raiders are everywhere, they'll kill us!" The human lowered his weapon, motioning them inside quickly. "Stay quiet. Breathe. We'll find a way out." The room grew crowded. Fear hung heavy in the air. People argued in whispers, some crying, others panicking. The children whimpered, clutching their mother's hands. The noise pressed down on the girl like a crushing weight. Too many voices, too much fear. Her chest tightened. She wanted to cover her ears, to disappear into silence again. But then she saw their faces, the same fear she had lived with all her life. And the spark inside her grew. The human tried to calm them, but his voice was only one. The fear kept rising, filling the room like fire without air, and then the girl did something she never thought she could. She stood. Her knees trembled. Her throat burned. But she held the puppy close and lifted her chin. For the first time, she let her voice rise in front of others. "Quiet," she whispered. No one heard. Her lips pressed tighter. She forced herself to try again, louder this time. "Quiet." The word cut through the room like a blade. Everyone froze. Heads turned. The girl's chest hammered, but she did not back down. Her voice shook, but she kept speaking. "If you scream, if you fight each other, they will find us. We will die." The civilians stared at her in silence. They had never heard her speak before. Many had thought she could not speak at all. Her hands shook. Her voice cracked. But she continued. "We must move. Not hide here. They will come. We must go now." The human's eyes widened, surprise flashing across his face, but then he smiled faintly, nodding. "She's right," he said firmly. "If we stay, we're trapped. If we move together, we have a chance." The civilians hesitated. One man whispered, "But where?" The girl swallowed hard. She felt the fear clawing at her throat again. She almost fell silent. Almost. But the puppy barked sharp and bold, as if reminding her that silence was no longer her prison. She lifted her voice again. "The lower decks," she said. Her words came slow but steady. "Maintenance tunnels. Few guards there." The human's eyebrows lifted. "You know the tunnels?" She nodded weakly. For years she had hidden there, wandering unseen while others ignored her. She knew the dark corners of the station better than most. The human's smile grew wider. "Then you'll lead us." Her heart stopped. Led? She had never led anyone. She could barely face herself in the mirror of a water tank. But now, all eyes were on her. The civilians whispered to each other nervously. Some doubted. Some feared. But the children stared at her with hope shining through their tears. Her throat burned, but she forced herself to speak again. "Follow me. Stay close. Do not make noise." It wasn't loud. It wasn't perfect. But it was enough. The human gave her a nod of respect, like a soldier acknowledging a commander. And for the first time in her life, she did not feel like a shadow. She felt seen. The hatch opened again, this time leading into the dark, narrow tunnels below. Pipes dripped. The air smelled of oil and rust. The civilians hesitated, fear thick around them. The girl stepped forward first. The puppy trotted at her heels, tail wagging. She looked back at the group, her eyes steady. "Here," she whispered. "Safe path." One by one they followed. The human brought up the rear, pipe in hand, eyes scanning for danger. But he kept glancing at her, pride burning in his gaze. The girl walked ahead, her fear still heavy but her steps firm. For years her voice had been a prisoner. Tonight, It was a torch guiding others through the dark. Behind them, the station groaned under the weight of the raiders' attack. Ahead of them, danger still waited, but for the first time she was not only surviving, she was leading. The tunnels stretched on like veins of steel beneath the station. Pipes dripped water, steam hissed, and the air smelled of metal dust. The group moved slowly, footsteps echoing in the dim light. At the front walked the orphaned girl, puppy at her heels. Her thin hands brushed the walls as she guided them through twists and turns only she seemed to know. Behind her, the frightened civilians clutched each other, whispering prayers. The human stayed at the rear, pipe gripped tight, eyes scanning, for danger. For years she had walked these tunnels alone. Now others followed her. The weight of their trust pressed on her chest like a stone. Her voice had led them here. But would it be enough to keep them alive? Far above, the station shook. With another blast, raiders barked orders, their voices carried through comm channels. The girl froze when she heard one word echo faintly through a vent. Target. She strained her ears. The girl. Silver skin. Black hair. Last of them. Her blood turned cold. She pressed herself to the wall, shaking. Last of them. They were talking about her. The puppy whined softly, nudging her leg as if to remind her to keep moving. She swallowed hard and forced herself forward, but her hands trembled. She could not shake the sound of that word. Last. The group reached a wider chamber, a forgotten storage bay deep below the main decks. The civilians sank to the floor, exhausted. The children clung to their mother, eyes wide with fear. The human moved closer to the girl. We'll rest here a moment. You did. Well, she looked at him, her throat dry. She wanted to ask him, did he hear it too, did he know? But her lips would not form the words. As if reading her silence, he crouched beside her. His voice dropped low. They're after you, aren't they? Her chest tightened. Her lips trembled. Slowly she nodded. The puppy barked once, tail wagging, breaking the heavy air. The human exhaled, running a hand through his messy hair. I don't know why yet, but I know one thing, they won't get you. She blinked at him, stunned. No one had ever said such words to her. For so long, she had believed she was a burden, a shadow to be ignored. But this man's voice was steel carrying, no doubt. Still, her heart whispered the truth she had never told. She was alone because her people were gone, entirely gone. The memory returned sharp and cruel, the fire falling from the skies, the screams of her kin, the night. Her world burned. She had hidden, small and silent as everything was destroyed. When she had woken, there was nothing left, no family, no planet, no future. Her kind had been rare even before the war. And now, she was the only one, the last. Tears stung her eyes. She hated them, hated how weak they made her feel. She turned her face away, but the human placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. You don't have to tell me everything, he said softly. Not now. But listen to me. Being the last doesn't mean being nothing. Her chest shook with silent sobs. The puppy licked her hand, warm and insistent. She clutched it close, burying her face in its fur. The civilians began to argue in whispers. One man hissed, "Why are the raiders hunting her? What if she brings them all down on us?" Another snapped, "She saved us. Don't you remember? Without her voice, we'd be dead." Fear rippled through the group. Some eyed her with suspicion now, others with awe. The girl shrank back, hugging the puppy tighter. This was why she had hidden for so long. The moment people knew what she was, they would turn on her. The human stood, his voice sharp. Enough. She's not the danger. They are. And if you want to live, you'll follow her lead. His tone silenced them, but the girl still felt their eyes. Then the hatch above the chamber shook violently. The sound of boots hammered down the corridor. Raiders were close. They found us, someone whispered. The girl's heart raced. She could hear their voices now, clearer than before. Secure the survivor, a raider ordered. She's worth more than the whole station. Her hands trembled so badly she nearly dropped the puppy. The human grabbed his pipe, jaw set. He glanced at her. "We'll fight them together," her breath caught. Together. For years she had survived by hiding, by shrinking, by becoming invisible. Now she stood at the edge of being hunted, not just as a girl, but as the last of an entire species. And for the first time she felt something stronger than fear. Anger. They wanted to take her, to erase what little remained of her people. But she was still here, still breathing, still standing. Her voice had been silent for too long. The hatch groaned. Sparks burst as raiders began cutting through the lock. Civilians cried out, huddling together. The human moved closer to her side. "When they come through, we stand." She nodded slowly, clutching the puppy in one arm. With her free hand she pressed against her chest, feeling the trembling of her own heartbeat. She whispered to herself, but this time the words were not broken by fear. "They will hear me." The puppy barked, sharp and fearless, as the hatch gave way, and in that moment the orphaned girl, once silent, once hidden, prepared to raise her voice against the fire. The hatch above the chamber screeched as sparks rained down. Metal glowed red where raiders cut through the lock. Their voices echoed through the steel. "Secure the survivor. Leave no one else alive." The civilians whimpered, pulling children close. The human gripped his pipe tighter, his stance wide, ready to fight. The puppy growled, small but fearless, barking into the rising storm. The girl stood frozen, her chest pounding. The word survivor echoed in her skull. They weren't here for anyone else. They were here for her, the last of her kind. For so long she had run from the truth. She had hidden, silent and small, afraid of her own shadow. But now, as the raiders tore through the door, she felt the old fear shifting into something else. Resolve. With a final burst of sparks, the hatch fell. Raiders stormed in, dark armor, glowing rifles, boots pounding like thunder. The civilians cried out. The human roared, swinging his pipe with all his strength. The girl's body trembled, but her feet did not move backward. Not this time. She stepped forward. The raiders hesitated for a heartbeat, surprised to see her standing tall instead of cowering. One lowered his weapon. "There she is. The last one." The words stabbed her heart, but she lifted her chin. "No," she whispered. Her voice cracked but grew louder. "Not the last, not nothing." The raiders frowned. Then she screamed. It was not the broken cry of fear from before. This was a roar, fierce and sharp, filled with years of pain and fire. Her voice echoed through the chamber like a shockwave. The sound stunned the raiders, their aim faltered. One dropped his rifle, clutching his ears. The human charged, pipe striking with brutal force. Civilians, emboldened by her voice, grabbed loose tools and joined in. The chamber erupted into chaos. The girl held the puppy close with one arm. Her free hand pressed against her throat as her voice rang out again. "Fight! Do not let them take us!" The words poured from her lips like they had been waiting all her life. Each shout gave strength to those around her. Each cry cut through the fear. For the first time, she was not silent. For the first time, others followed her voice. A raider lunged toward her, blade drawn. The girl froze for a split second. Then the puppy leapt from her arms, barking wildly, biting at the raider's boot. The distraction was enough. The human slammed his pipe into the raider's chest, sending him crashing to the floor. "Stay behind me," the human shouted, but she shook her head. Her eyes blazed. "No, I stand with you." The battle was messy, desperate. Sparks flew. Civilians swung pipes and wrenches. Raiders fired, missing in the chaos. The girl shouted warnings. "Left! Behind you! Duck!" Her voice guiding them through the storm. One by one, the raiders fell back. They had not expected resistance from a frightened orphan and her ragtag defenders. Finally, the last raider staggered, clutching his comms. His helmet cracked, his voice distorted. "Command, the survivor, is dangerous." The human struck him down before he could finish. The chamber fell silent save for the ragged breaths of the survivors. The girl's chest heaved, her throat raw. Her voice was gone, but her heart was strong. The civilians looked at her with wide eyes, no longer with suspicion, not with doubt, with awe. "She saved us," one whispered. "She led us," another said. "She's more than a survivor," the mother of the children added softly. The girl lowered her head, embarrassed, tears burning her eyes. For so long she had believed she was nothing, but now she had been their shield. The human stepped forward, resting a hand gently on her shoulder. "You did more than survive," he said. His voice was quiet but certain. "You fought, you led, you lived." Her lips trembled. She clutched the puppy close. Slowly, her gaze lifted. Through a cracked panel above, the stars shone, cold and bright. For years she had hidden from them, afraid they would remind her of all she had lost. But now, for the first time, she looked at them fully. The stars no longer mocked her. They called to her. The group moved together through the tunnels, heading for the surviving pods. The battle was not over, but hope flickered like fire in their chests. As they reached the docking ring, the human stopped at a console. His eyes widened. "There's something, a signal." The girl tilted her head. "Signal?" He nodded slowly, pointing at the screen. "Encrypted, old frequency. Not raider, not human." Her heart skipped. The code flashed again. A repeating beacon, faint but steady. The human glanced at her. "It matches your DNA markers." The girl's breath caught. She stared at the screen, trembling. Her kind? Could it be? The puppy barked, tail wagging as if sensing the truth. She pressed her hand to the glass, staring at the signal as tears filled her eyes. Maybe she was not the last after all. For the first time since her world burned, she whispered words not of fear, but of hope. "I am not alone." The human smiled, steady and certain. "No, you never were." The puppy barked again, sharp and bright, as the stars stretched endlessly before them, and the girl, once broken, once silent, lifted her head high and looked at the stars again.